Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses as we continue with part 7 of Dr. R. Swinburne Clymer's Ancient Mystic Oriental Masonry. 64. In the Ritual of Masonry, King Solomon's temple is taken as a symbol. The building and the restoration of the temple at Jerusalem are dramatically represented in the work of the lodge, and in the ceremony of initiation by a play upon words and parody of events, and applied to the candidate with admonition, warning, or encouragement as the drama unfolds. 65. The symbolism is fitted to ideal relations rather than to actual existences or historical events. An represents the name of deity in 3 languages, and the biblical history is an allegory or myth of the sun god. There is no reliable history of the construction of any such temple at Jerusalem, and recent explorations and measurements have greatly altered the dimensions as heretofore given. 66. The real temple, referred to from first to last in Masonry, as in all ancient initiations, is the tabernacle of the human soul. 67. It is built, indeed, without the sound of hammer or any tool of iron. It is like, or meaning made in the likeness of, the other spiritual temple, not made with hands, eternal in heaven. For the old philosophy, which is the Kabbalah, teaches that the immortal soul of man is the artificer of the body and its source of life, that it does not so much enter in as overshadow man, while the soul, the immediate vehicle of the spirit, inhabits the body and is dissipated at death. The spirit is immortal, pure, and forever undefiled. It is Christos, or Hiram, the mediator between the soul, or physical man, and the universal spirit, the Father in heaven. The poor blind candidate, that is, the man of sense, immersed in matter, would learn the ineffable name and obtain the lost word, and, seeking a shortcut, climbs up some other way. He would have wisdom without self-conquest, power without sacrifice. He will not listen to the voice of pleading, "Be patient, my brother, and when the temple is completed, if found worthy, you shall receive that for which you have so long wrought." No, he will have it now, and he silences the pleading voice, and, defeating only himself, flees into the deserts of remorse, and calls upon the rocks to hide him from the pursuit of his accusing conscience. Hiram, or the Christos, is resurrected. Being immortal, he cannot really die. No sin of man is final. Realizing his error and purified by suffering, the spirit of man, even defeat gives promise of victory, and he receives a substitute for the lost word, being again lifted up. He hears, however, faint or dim, the divine harmony. Future generations, that is, further trials and more sincere endeavor, promise greater reward. He learns to know, to will, to dare, and to keep silent. Brotherly love, relief, and truth, prudence, fortitude, justice, and mercy. All the virtues and all the beatitudes are inculcated. 68. The candidate is taught not merely to tolerate another's religion, but to respect it as his own, though still adhering to that into which he was born. To make reasonable this obligation, he is shown through the Kabbalah, or secret doctrine, that at the heart of every great religion lie the same eternal truths, forms, or observances, only different. The ineffable name is spelled in many ways, yet the word is one and eternal. Masonry is not only a universal science, but a worldwide religion, and owes allegiance to no one creed, and can adopt no sectarian dogma as such, without ceasing thereby to be Masonic, drawn from the Kabbalah, and taking the Jewish or Christian verbiage or symbols. It but discerns in them universal truths, which it recognizes in all other religions. Many degrees have been Christianized only to perish, as every degree eventually will if circumscribed by narrow creeds, and dwarfed to the apprehension, so as to exclude good men of any other communion. Is Jesus any less the Christos because Krishna was called the Good Shepherd, or because the Mexican Christ was crucified between two thieves, or because Hiram was 3 days in a grave before he was resurrected? Are we not as selfish in our religion as in our other possessions? Then why is man, while cherishing as his most sacred possession the religion of his fathers, eternally seeking to degrade and destroy that of his brother? 69. The Great Republic, to which Brother Pike refers, is the ideal of Masonry, the genius that hovers like a protecting angel over the lodge. Make it impossible for a Jew or a Farsi, Buddhist or Brahmin to enter any lodge without witnessing the profanation of his sacred altars or contempt for his religion. And the angel hides their face and retreats from altars already profaned by unbrotherliness. Masonry is the universal religion only because, and only so long as it embraces all religions. For this reason and this alone, it is universal and eternal. Neither persecution nor misrepresentation can ever destroy it. It may find no place in a generation of bigots. It may retire for a century, but again comes a master builder with the key to the shut palace of the king, throws open the blinds, lets in the light, kindles anew the fire of the sacred altar, clears away the rubbish, when behold, the tessellated pavement is as bright as when it first came from the quarries of truth. The jewels are of pure gold and brighten at the touch, and the great lights are undimmed and undecayed. When the candidate is ready, the master appears. And yet men are so foolish and so vile as to imagine that they can destroy their heirloom of the ages, this heritage from the immortals. No age is so dark as to quench entirely the light of the lodge. No persecution so bloody as to blot out its votaries. No anathemas of popes so lasting as to count 1 second on its dial of time. These, one and all, serve only to keep the people in darkness and retard the reign of universal brotherhood. Therefore, humanity, the great orphan, the real master laments. He smiles at the passions of popes or kings and pities the folly of man. He only waits, indifferent as to results, knowing these to be under eternal law, but ready and willing, whenever and wherever the instruction entering the listening ear may find lodgment in the faithful breast. For ages, kings, popes, and synods have done their best to kill this secret doctrine by anathematizing or burning its masters. The Jesuits got possession of its lodges, transformed out all recognition, many of its degrees, and made of them an abject tool of the sacerdotal hierarchy. 70. Hiram Abiff is dramatically represented to have lost his life when the temple was near completion, and yet it is recorded that after the completion of the temple, he labored for years to construct and ornament a palace for the king. Add to these facts the statement that the temple was constructed without the sound of hammer or any tool or iron, and it is thus likened more nearly to that other spiritual temple, not made with hands, eternal in heaven, and the literal and historical features disappear, and the symbolism stands out in bold relief. 71. Masonic lodges are dedicated to the Saint John, one whom the evangelist opens his Gnostic gospel with the Greek philosophy of the Logos, the principle of emanation already referred to, and the other, the seer Patmos, writes a book symbolically of ancient initiations, which many a non-initiate has tried in vain to interpret. It may thus be seen that there is a deep significance in the dedication of lodges to the Saints John. Take, for example, Revelations 16:16. And the city lieth 4 squares, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal, which is a perfect cube. And he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits. According to the measurement of man, that is, an angel, the language is evidently a veil, designed to conceal the real meaning from the uninitiated, as the measure of man, that is, a perfect man or angel. We have the cubic as a symbol of perfect proportion, hence a square man. The temple of Sol-Am-On, the cubical city, which unfolded becomes a cross, and hence the measurement of a man. All these refer to the work of regeneration or initiation, the rebuilding of the temple after the plan drawn upon the tessel board, by which it shall be like the spiritual temple, not made with hands, plainly refers to initiation, from which results perfect proportion and perfect harmony. '72. A very limited knowledge of the history of primitive worship and mysteries is necessary to enable any person to recognize in the Master Mason Hiram, the Osiris of the Egyptians, the Mithras of the Persians, the Bacchus of the Greeks, the Ates of the Phrygians, of which these people celebrated the passion, death, and resurrection, as Christians celebrate today that of Jesus Christ. Otherwise, this is the eternal and unvarying type of all the religions which have succeeded each other upon the earth. 73. In an astronomical connection, Hiram is the representative of the sun, the symbol of his apparent progress, which appearing at the south gate, so to speak, is smote downward and more downward as he advances towards the west, which passing, he is immediately vanquished and put to death by darkness, represented in the following the same allegory by the spirit of evil. But returning, he rises again, conqueror and resurrected. 74. Kurum, therefore, and properly called Hiram, is Kuam, the same as Hera, Hermes, and Hercules, the personification of light and the sun, the mediator, redeemer, and savior. 75. It is merely absurd to add the word Abith or Abith as part of the name of the architect. Abin, which we read Abith, means of my father's, formerly one of my father's servants or slave. 76. Modern Masonry, being but an imitation of ancient genuine mysteries, the writer has no design of reading into a meaning which cannot be fully verified. For the greater part, modern Masons are dealing with symbols, the key for real interpretation of which they never possessed, or even suspected that it existed. It remains for the future to determine whether any considerable number of our Masonic brethren really desire to possess in fuller measure the living truth which the dead letter text conceals. That living truth exists, and it is accessible to every Mason, as is the dead letter or the dumb show under which it masquerades in every lodge. 77. The genuine acacia is also the thorny tamarisk, the same tree which grew up around the body of Osiris. It is the sacred tree among the Arabs, who made of it the idol Al-Luza, which Muhammad destroyed. It is abundant as a bush in the desert of Thur, and of it the crown of thorns was composed, which was set on the forehead of Jesus of Nazareth. It is a fit type of immortality on account of its tenacity of life, for it has been known, when planted as a doorpost, to take root and shoot out budding bough above the threshold. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. We are in much need of your help. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you very much.